See, this is the main contentious point we have. We have a serious shortage of undergraduation seats and a post-graduation seats. Let's look at, that is the reason why all the corruption happens, all the scandals in medical education, why it happens? Because there are very few seats. If 10 lakh people apply, if there are only 60,000 seats, naturally there will be a lot of money changing hands. Now, first thing is how a medical college is built. It costs 400 crore rupees to build a medical college. If you go to Caribbean region, there are 35 medical colleges which are training doctors for US, which is in a rented 50,000 square foot in a shopping mall, training fantastic doctors for US. Why are you spending 400 crore rupees and creating this edifice? It is ridiculous. All over the world, medical colleges do not have this rigid requirement. Medical colleges don't require 140 faculty members to train 100 students. 140 faculty members can run a medical college with 1,000 students. So, when the whole world has changed, we haven't changed. So, today what we have done, we have made medical education as an elitist affair. Poor children, when I was a young medical student, my classmates were all children from poor families. Today, children from poor families are not dreaming of becoming doctors. This will have a tremendous consequences. Outstanding doctors across the world with magic in their finger, most of them come from deprived background. Because these are the kids with the fire in the belly to work for 24 hours to change the rules of the game. If children from rich families become doctors, they opt for radiology, dermatology and other specialties where they can go home at 5 o'clock. Why should postgraduate education be costing so much? Why should you pay 2 crore or 5 crore rupees or even 10 lakh rupees fees to become a specialist? All over the world, higher medical education is free of cost. So essentially, the problem is, all the problems what's happening in the healthcare is not because of the government. It is because the privileged society doesn't ask the right question. Why every 12 minutes a pregnant lady should die during childbirth? Why 3 lakh children die the day they are born? Why 1.2 million children die before celebrating the first birthday? It is unacceptable. Why? Because we are not asking the right questions. Statistically, if these pregnant ladies had a very good antenatal checkup, 14 to 15% of them need cesarean section. That means we need to do 5.2 million cesarean sections per year. To do that, we need 2 lakh gynecologists. We have 50,000 gynecologists, less than 50,000. Half of them don't practice obstetrics because they don't want to be woken up at night. And all of them live in cities. And 60% of children are born in rural India. We need 2 lakh anesthetists. We have less than 50,000 anesthetists. We need 2 lakh pediatricians to take care of all the kids coming. We have less than 50,000 pediatricians. We need at least 1.5 lakh radiologists. We have less than 10,500 radiologists. Then how do you expect the maternal mortality to come down? It has nothing to do with money. This country doesn't require additional budgetary allocation. This country requires liberating medical, nursing and paramedical education. That's all.
And the USMLEs are extremely important to get back into the United States for a good residency program or even for any residency program. If you're not a good test taker, you're really going to have to work exceptionally hard down there to do as well as possible on the boards, because those board scores are what residency programs are going to use to compare you against many of the other applicants coming in. So that's definitely a good thing about Caribbean schools. They're easier to get into. The other good thing about Caribbean schools is that if you can go down there and do well, you can do really well. You can get into a great program, you can get into a good fellowship, you can even become faculty member at great universities across the United States. That's a minority of students. The majority of students will go into a sort of community-based residency program in some of the uncompetitive specialties like psychiatry or internal medicine or maybe even general surgery. And it's definitely difficult to get into some of the super competitive specialties like radiology or dermatology and plastic surgery, some of these things that are exceptionally hard to get into are going to be really hard to get into from the United States. But remember that residencies fluctuate. Something that used to be super competitive like radiology today is not as competitive. So it really depends, and you can't necessarily pin yourself into one specialty before you go down there. The bottom line though is that if you can do well at these schools, you can do really well. Establish a career for yourself in the United States. Nobody will even know you went down there. You can basically get a great fellowship, a great residency program, and be in a good position later on.
All my life I've been real, in search of that deal. All my life I've been nice, wish you knew how this feel. Roll up, first thing, don't call me while I'm working. Yeah, I got me some hard bars and a hard hook with that verse in. That thing hitting so perfect, rewind, reverse it. Me, I'm riding that wave, kinda feel like I'm surfing. I'm on my way to that moon.
Hey guys, it's Jess
and Jay. Welcome to our channel.
So today we're going to be talking about the truth about accelerated courses in the Caribbean. There are some similarities between our school and other schools in the Caribbean, so that's why we're kind of saying Caribbean med schools, because they're known to be accelerated programs. So we have a list of things that we feel that we should share with you guys about these types of programs, what to expect, and mostly the issues or the things that we're dealing with personally.
So kick it off. What's number one on your list?
Okay, so number one, it says accelerated, and you're like, okay, yeah, it's quicker than the States, but it's accelerated. Like, you think you know how accelerated it is, but for example, in our case, we had to learn microbiology, and I think it was immuno in like 2 weeks each. Like, that was what our school gave us to like master those topics. And I know that in the States you have way more time to really learn them. So I think that was one of the things that was one of the first things that I went through that I was like, whoa, this is much quicker than I thought it was. Even though I knew it was quicker, but like it's honestly faster than you think. And sometimes that affects your studying, that affects how what you think you're capable of. So that's one thing to take in mind. It's a lot quicker than you think it is.
For sure. And since it's so quick, there's a lot of times where you have to prioritize between family, friends, and school. Because since you have such a short amount of time to learn things, your friends and family may be on vacation, let's say, because we work on a trimester system. So we work all the way through the summer. So when everyone's on vacation here, visiting us, whatever, we're still working. So I say that because you need to remember how to prioritize. Because some days you're going to want to hang out with your friends and family, but you might just have 2 days to master something. Things here move super quick, so learning how to balance is super important.
Next thing is that you have less time to master topics. So as I already mentioned, you don't get necessarily the time that you personally may need. Like for me, I may need 2 months to master physio. She may need a month. So with the time that you're given, like she said, you have to learn to prioritize, and having less time affects how well you may have a base or foundation in that topic. So keep that in mind. You have to prioritize and just work the best way you can with what you have.
I think since it's so quick and like she said, you have to jam so much information in your head, sometimes you are going to forget things. I would recommend trying to do flashcards throughout the year and all that stuff to always just keep what you learned fresh, because I know for me, a lot of times I'd learn the topics, be able to do well on the test, and then my brain will kind of just dump that information. But unfortunately, like in medicine, you can't do that. You need to know, you need to have a good base in order to further your knowledge. So definitely flashcards, do questions. There's a lot of different question sources, and just stay up to date.
My next point actually ties into what she said. There's a difference between learning something and memorizing something.
Absolutely.
And I think throughout this entire journey, confession for me, I memorized a lot of it. You know, like a good percentage of everything that we're supposed to know. I memorized it for exams because of how quick we were evaluated on those topics. Like I mentioned, 2 weeks for immuno, 2 weeks for micro. Micro is extensive. So, you know, you just have to learn, like she said, the techniques that work for you. Flashcards work for you, do that. Recall questions. You know, I don't know. There's just so many techniques that I can make another video on that alone. But there's just, you have to remember there's a difference between learning and memorizing. Now, some things you do have to memorize, but try your best to learn something and learn it to the point where if you get a question, you can break it down. You know what I mean?
For sure. I would definitely agree with Jess. Like, I memorize a lot of stuff. I used to say, like, when I first started, I can memorize anything. Like, and it was to the point where I would say things from the textbook, word for word. Now, ask me if I remember it afterwards. That's when it counts. And I didn't. So definitely long-term memory things, techniques, learn them, master them if you plan on coming here. Or be prepared for the fact that somebody's going to ask you something that you should know, and you're going to be like, dang, I studied that, but I can't find it. Like, I don't know where it is. So just think about that.
Yeah. So to tie in everything that we pretty much talked about, everything depends on how you learn.
Yes.
I don't learn the same way she learns. You have to find what works for you. For me, I noticed that sometimes studying at home, 80% of the time, studying at home doesn't work for me. I'm home, I want to be in bed, I want to watch Netflix, I don't want to do anything. But if I'm at school and I'm in the library and I see other people studying, it kind of pushes me to focus more. In her case, she has to hear herself.
Yeah.
So she can't be in the library where you're supposed to be quiet. So she kind of has to study at home or somewhere where she can just vocalize everything she's reading, go over it. Everyone has their own techniques, what works best for them. So find yours and work with that.
But with that, we want to say thanks for watching our video, and we hope you like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for all the messages we've been getting on Instagram and via YouTube of you guys just asking questions and things like that, and just sending love. You guys are super sweet, so thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.
We gon' do this forever. We gon' do this for life. We gon' do this for life.
Caribbean Medical School, because I had a family friend who I just met recently about 2 years ago. Until then, I didn't really think much about Caribbean Medical Schools. I always thought, I'd be in the States where I'm from and everything. So through my family friend, he's a physician who studied at this school. I met a lot of people through him. I got a lot of personal words with him where he would try to tell me what all he experienced, how it benefited him, and how great it was. And it really opened my eyes to some of the advantages of coming here. And I really think that through him and meeting everybody at AUIS, I really fell in love with it, and that's why.